Are you ready to revolutionize your relationship with money? Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
Pearson Ravitz' story begins with Dr. Stephanie Pearson, a passionate OB-GYN at the height of her career. But then, a shoulder injury struck during a precipitous delivery. Her dreams were shattered, leaving her unable to practice medicine. Determined to make a difference, Stephanie became an advocate for her peers, guiding them through the complex disability process. Alongside insurance expert Scott Ravitz, Stephanie founded Pearson Ravitz, a company determined to approach insurance differently. Together, they set their mission to educate and empower physicians to protect their most valuable asset, their income, and the most important people in their life, their family. Today, Pearson Ravitz serves the medical community in all 50 states. At Pearson Ravitz, they understand the unique concerns of physicians. Physician-founded and physician-focused, Pearson Ravitz builds human connections before they create quotes. Life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness or injury could leave you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But with a little planning and guidance, you can prepare for every possibility. Visit PearsonRavitz.com to schedule your consultation with a Pearson Ravitz advisor. Hello, and welcome back to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician, the podcast where we explore smart and snazzy strategies to build your wealth while enjoying the journey. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today I'm thrilled to have a very special guest in the medical field. She's a maven of medicine and a guru of going your own way, Dr. Sylvie Stacy. Dr. Stacy is not only a preventative and addiction medicine specialist, but also the brilliant mind behind the books 50 Non-Clinical Careers for Physicians and 50 Unconventional Clinical Careers for Physicians. Let's explore how thinking outside the box can really help you achieve financial freedom and balance. Welcome, Dr. Stacy.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and your listeners today. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I wish someone had written these books when I was a medical student so I could have known about all the options, because I seriously learn about it as I go. So to kick things off, could you share what inspired you to explore and eventually write about non-traditional career paths for physicians?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually what you just spoke about, is wishing that you knew about some of these options when you were a student. That was my inspiration for all of this. In my own journey during medical school, I quickly realized that I didn't think a more traditional doctor job was going to be appropriate for me. I didn't think that I would enjoy seeing patients in a clinic or a hospital setting, patient after patient, day after day. And I felt a little lost for a while. I even regretted for a while that I had started medical school and floundered about for a little bit, figuring out, okay, what am I going to do here? How can I salvage this situation? I didn't realize that typical patient care wasn't going to jive with me. And so I really dived into exploring all of my options and thinking about how I could use my medical degree in a way that matched better with my personality. And as I did that, I did end up coming across a specialty that was good for me, and that was preventive medicine. And that's what I ended up doing my training in. And throughout that, and then the work that I've done since then, I've just continued to see all of these different opportunities that we're not usually taught about in medical school, that we don't rotate through, and that most residencies don't expose us to either. And I have just wanted to spread the word to other doctors who may not have had the time to delve into these options the way that I did, or they just don't realize that they exist. But at the same time, they're not fully satisfied with their career paths right now, and they are thinking about other options. They just don't know where to begin. So I wanted to kind of put together these cohesive resources that go into all of these different options, both in the realm of non-clinical careers and in clinical careers that are just less popular among physicians than most jobs.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to turn your own struggle into something that helps other people. Because honestly, this is the first time I'm seeing something that just lays it out. This is the job. This is what you'd be expected to do. These would be the clinical roles or responsibilities that you would have. And this is how much you can expect to be paid. Really, really valuable resource. I want to dive into a little bit more about the preventative medicine that you do. How does that differ from traditional primary care?
The training length, it's a 1-year internship followed by a 2-year preventive medicine residency. So you can do that internship in anything, whether it's a transitional year or an internship in internal medicine or surgery or something else. So it's a pretty short training program, and there is an element of clinical medicine in there, clinical preventive care, whether that's in a regular outpatient setting or something like a public health department. But actually, the majority of your time spent in preventive medicine residency is on non-clinical type of work. Some of it is coursework leading up to a master's of public health. And then there's rotations through different settings in which physicians are used broadly to assist organizations that somehow touch on the healthcare system. So it might be from the governmental side, something like Health and Human Services agency like the FDA or Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. You might rotate through a pharmaceutical company that is working on clinical trials for their investigational products. You might also rotate through an academic research center that does some type of clinical or retrospective research. And then there's sometimes outpatient clinical settings that you might rotate through as well. So it's very broad, but very much based on healthcare that influences entire populations and communities and their health rather than just individual patients. So many physicians coming out of preventive medicine will take non-clinical roles in any number of settings, such as the ones that I just described.
Oh, that's fascinating. What does your typical week look like?
So for me, where I took my preventive medicine training right after residency was actually with a job at an organization that provides healthcare services at prisons and jails. So I went into correctional medicine, which actually came as a surprise for me because I hadn't really thought at all about a job in which I would be treating incarcerated patients. But I came across this opportunity as a corporate medical director with this healthcare services company. And the job involved a small percentage of clinical care, but then more of the administrative type role that I just described. So I was doing things like training clinicians at the prisons and jails and overseeing the clinical work that was provided, writing and updating policies and procedures, helping the facilities prepare for things like audits for accreditation, and also helping an IT team to implement and enhance their EHR product that we used in the facilities. So I had my hands in a lot of different pots, and that initial role was probably less than 20% clinical. And my typical work week would be usually in an office setting, working with on-site providers in a remote setting, either through email or phone calls or Zoom calls. And then a minority of my time, I would travel out to those jails and prisons that my company contracted with and actually see patients and work with providers in those facilities.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And definitely, it seems like a totally different world than the traditional clinical medicine that I practice. So really enjoy the perspective of someone that's not doing that. In your book, 50 Non-Clinical Careers for Physicians, you outline some really fascinating roles. I mean, it's really comprehensive. Can you highlight a couple that are particularly effective at achieving financial independence and freedom?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them. So I'll try to stick with ones that I feel like are both particularly effective for financial freedom, but also attainable for most physicians. First, I think that a couple of different roles within the pharmaceutical industry can be incredibly rewarding, both from a professional standpoint and financially. And the two I want to point out are roles in medical affairs and roles in drug safety or pharmacovigilance. So both of those help mainly when the company's product has already achieved approval and is now available for prescriptions or other use out in the real world. And physicians are used for drug safety, like monitoring the safety of the drug in the real world, deciding if any ongoing clinical studies are going to be needed for things like safety concerns or for potential new drug indications that the company wants to get. So that's the drug safety side. And then the medical affairs side is kind of like a liaison between the clinical and research component of the pharmaceutical company and the commercial component, in which you have sales representatives and folks in marketing that are trying to market that product. So you're the link between those two, trying to make sure that the non-clinical folks are getting all of the clinical information correct, and that the users out in the real world, like physicians and health insurance companies and even patients, that you're gathering helpful information from them to bring that back to the company. And I say all that in hopes that I can describe how relevant our medical training is to something like that. Pharmaceutical companies absolutely depend on knowledgeable, experienced doctors to make sure that the information that is being used for marketing and research is like good, scientifically based, evidence-based information, and that it's portrayed effectively to the healthcare community and to patients. And those jobs come with good salaries. Most physicians in medical affairs are associated with a particular therapeutic area. So for example, if you're trained as an ophthalmologist, you would most likely take an ophthalmology role with a company who is making an ophtho product of a specific type, or potentially a couple of different products that are specific to ophthalmology. So they need someone with that background, and they're willing to pay an ophthalmologist level salary for you to do that work, just in this different setting. And there's a lot of room for career advancement in pharmaceutical companies as well, because they're so large and there's so many different divisions and a pretty big hierarchy of seniority as well.
Yeah. I mean, when I think pharmaceutical job, I think drug rep. But you just highlighted a couple of roles where your medical training can really make a positive impact on patients' lives on a larger scale by advising the pharmaceutical company with your clinical background and making sure that, you're protecting patients and looking for side effects and things like that need to be studied. That really jives with my value system. So thank you for sharing that. And, and pointing out that switching to pharma is not always selling out, that you're doing good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that sometimes physicians are quick to think that taking a job with pharma, or really any job outside of direct patient care, is somehow selling out or helping the bad guy. I have found that to just really not be the case. Sure, there are a few bad eggs that have left medicine and are using shady practices for different businesses that try to take advantage of the healthcare system. But I would say 99% of the time, physicians in non-clinical settings are really there to make sure that the company is providing a product or service that is actually going to help patients or help physicians or somehow help our healthcare system down the line. And because we have medical degrees that are so well respected, our opinions in these companies, like pharmaceutical companies, are very highly valued. My own experience has been that people take me seriously. If I'm starting something new and I'm still kind of getting my hands wet, learning my way around a new type of industry or organization, people value my clinical and medical opinion because they know that I have the credentials and the training and the experience to support what I'm saying and what I'm recommending.
There's a lot to be said about that, because a lot of physicians do feel like the lack of respect every once in a while in their traditional clinical roles. And there's a lot to be said about the value of your training to these organizations.
So one of my, I would say, big take-home messages from these two books that I've written, aside from wanting to lay out these different discrete options, I want readers to come away from these books realizing the broad extent of knowledge and experience that they truly have. I think physicians in general underestimate the value of what they've done in their careers. If you've been working, say, in an outpatient primary care practice, many physicians in that setting have the tendency to think, well, I'm a primary care doctor. This is all I can do. I deliver primary care to patients. What else have I ever done? But if you really start to think about all of your skills and experience more broadly, I think you can really start to understand how much you can offer outside of the setting that you're used to practicing in, whether it's another clinical setting where you're seeing maybe a different population of patients or practicing in a different physical setting, or if you're transitioning on to some other type of industry or sector or organization. Our skills really are broad. And even though we might be spending our days assessing and treating patients, there's so much more that goes into that. You have to keep on top of all of the medical literature in your field. You are probably part of a therapeutics committee at your organization where you need to make decisions about what should be on the formulary. And to be able to do that, you need to know how to interpret the medical literature. You have probably learned a lot about insurance company billing and appeals and denials and prior authorizations. And all of that is an excellent asset if you're going to do something like work for a health insurance company in a non-clinical role. So I really encourage physicians to really sit down, look over your CV, and try to pinpoint the underlying skills and experiences you have beyond just patient care that may help you progress your career, whether you're making a full pivot or just wanting to do something else on the side for additional income.
Forget the burdens of tenants and toilets. Equity Multiple simplifies your investment journey, letting you invest passively in vetted, professionally managed commercial real estate. Only 5% of reviewed investments reach Equity Multiple's platform, with our asset management working on each from funding through exit to maximize your returns. Whether you're on the couch in your exec chair or the backseat of a ride share, Equity Multiple brings cash-flowing real estate investments straight to your fingertips. All investments involve risk. Visit equitymultiple.com to learn more.
Where would a physician go to find job postings in these non-clinical and unconventional careers?
I would recommend going outside of the typical job boards that are used for doctors. So Practice Link, for example, is a very popular one for traditional clinical jobs. And that is not where you tend to find the more unconventional and non-clinical jobs. I recommend looking on the really big job aggregators that will have a ton of jobs that are completely unapplicable to you as well. So I'm talking about job boards like Indeed.com, Monster.com, and LinkedIn is a great one because it also acts as a professional social networking platform and allows you to have a virtual resume on there. But Indeed and LinkedIn and those other big job boards and aggregators, that's where you're going to find things that are truly like a diamond in the rough when it comes to non-clinical and unconventional careers. But because they do have so many jobs that are not relevant to physicians, you do need to take the time to figure out the right search terms and filters to find those opportunities. And that's where I think my previous recommendation of really taking some time to think about what your skills are, and similarly thinking about what your professional interests are, that will help you start to do those searches and identify the keywords that come up with results that are jobs that are of interest to you. So that can take some time, but I promise you those jobs, many of them are posted on there. Many jobs are not posted on job boards either, specifically consulting roles rather than full-time roles. Those consulting roles are almost by networking and word of mouth. But there are a lot of great part-time positions and full-time unconventional positions that are posted as regular job openings. And if you take the time to figure out your search terms and set up alerts for yourself, you'll start getting those opportunities coming across your desk.
Well, that's really inspiring. Could you share a story of a physician who successfully transitioned to an unconventional role and how it impacted their life and finances?
I interviewed a number of physicians for my recent book, and pretty much all of them are very inspiring. So just to pick out one or two, one is a surgeon who worked as a cardiothoracic surgeon for a number of years in a hospital employed setting in which she had like your typical very busy surgeon schedule that involved seeing patients in clinic. It involves time in the OR, a lot of time on call. She would sacrifice weekends and some holidays to her work, and it was stressful. And her pay was good as a cardiothoracic surgeon, but she didn't feel like it was worth everything else that she sacrificed in life in terms of the hard schedule and the weekends that she had to work. So she, a number of years ago, transitioned to doing just locum tenens work on a part-time basis. After some work, found a particular locums company that tends to have a lot of openings in her line of surgery. And they present her with opportunities that she either accepts or declines. And she likes to accept short-term locums opportunities that are in warm areas during the winter. That's like her go-to job, like 12 to 16 weeks in South Florida or somewhere. She says that her work days are like regular 8-hour days. Sometimes she'll spend the mornings in the OR and the afternoons in the clinic, but she never has to work weekends. She's never there all night long. And if she does have to answer calls or go in the middle of the night, she gets paid substantially extra for that. She shared with me for her interview for the book that she will earn between $4,000 and $6,500 per day on a locums assignment. This allows her to take usually 3 months or more off from work entirely throughout the course of a year and still earn more than she earned during her regular surgery employment position that she had previously.
Yeah, I mean, the locums world, it seems so fun when it comes to just seeking out the geography that you want, the weather that you want, working less, making more. It sounds great. How can physicians get over the fear, though, of leaving their W-2 full-time that provides benefits and such, and then hopping over to, the locums lifestyle?
Yeah, it is a big leap, both to hop over the locums and to make any true change from one full-time employment to another, or out of full-time employment to start your own business or start your own practice. That is a big leap. And I think one of the best ways to mentally convince yourself that you're doing the right thing is to start off smaller with some type of work on the side that aligns with what you think you want to do for your longer term change. And that might mean using some evenings or weekends to pursue a side gig or some type of moonlighting. But I think it's absolutely worth it in the long run to have that mental peace of mind that, yes, you will be okay if you make a larger change. For me personally, I don't have the desire to make any drastic career pivot or job change at this point, but I still like to do some work on the side, both to be able to use kind of a different skill set than I use in my regular day job and for that extra income. I've got to say, I'm so motivated by that supplemental income. I just find the work to be both challenging and rewarding at the same time. So whether or not you're planning for a change, try something on the side that's a little bit different than what you have been doing and see how you like it, because that's a good indication that you're going to like doing it full time as well.
That's a great idea. And I do believe in the value of diversifying how we're spending our time in clinical medicine or non-clinical medicine and just doing a few things on the side, because it really puts into perspective to the full-time gig and the short-term or the per diem gig that you're doing. And it helps get you out of that feeling stuck mode. When you realize you have choice and that you could be doing something else, a lot of the times, even the role that you were playing before that was burning you out feels better. It sits better when you know that you're choosing it and that you're not dependent on it. That feeling of freedom, then realizing that you have choice, does sometimes reignite the passion for the old job where you might have felt stuck.
I agree 100%. Having income from multiple sources gives you such peace of mind. And then having work of different types makes you realize how valuable your skills truly are and makes you realize that you have the power to decide how you're using your skills and your credentials and your medical degree.
Thank you so much. Now I want to transition to a rapid fire round. I'll throw out some career options and you tell us hot or not based on their potential for financial success and work-life balance. You ready?
I will do my best.
Okay. Trauma surgeon.
Oh, that is hot. I think that you have to be really careful about potential burnout because that can be a high stress job, high adrenaline job, and it can have crazy hours because people get into traumas in the middle of the night. It certainly has the potential for a great income. And if you want to get into something like locums, there are tons of opportunities there.
All right. Medical toxicology.
Oh, that's hot. I'm not a toxicologist myself, but I have done a lot of work in addiction medicine. So I have learned a lot about drug testing and the role of a medical review officer for things like employment drug screening. And I think it's such an interesting field that combines a lot of hard science with clinical medicine.
Hospice medicine.
Hospice is hot, especially for physicians who are looking for something more part-time on the side. The role of a hospice medical director is something that can often be done with really flexible hours. Some of it can be done from the comfort of your own home, and you'll get a good compensation for that.
Sports medicine.
Sports medicine, also hot, because there's so much you can do with that. So many different types of athletes that you can treat, from being a professional team physician to doing pre-sports physicals for the high schoolers in your local area. Just a very broad area that the compensation may be not so great as other subspecialties, but I feel like the personal and professional reward can make up for that.
Concierge medicine.
That is also pretty hot. There's a lot that you can do with that, depending on what specific patient population you decide to focus on, what geographic location you're in. That is a practice that you can start solo and really take it wherever you want to take it.
DPC?
So I would consider that about the same as concierge medicine. I feel like they have so many similarities. It's something you can start it out on your own and do with it what you want to do. And whether it's financially successful or not, I think has a lot to do with your business model and the planning surrounding that. So if you're ready to learn a lot of business at the same time that you're practicing medicine, I feel like that's a great choice right now.
So it turns out, a lot of our medical options, a lot of these careers can be very hot, as in good for you for your financial success and work-life balance, if you make it work for you.
Yes, I agree. I think some physicians who are wanting a change or feeling burned out in their current roles, what holds them back is that nothing has landed in their lap. And once in a while, physicians have this wonderful job opportunity just kind of fall into their lap. That does happen, but most of the time it is you being proactive. It's you going out and figuring out what your options are and finding those options and finding the opportunities and really selling yourself to the employer. So that does take some work and it does take some effort.
I think it's an important thing to remember that, when we go through our medical training, a lot of our path has been defined for us. During match, we get told where to go, right? We don't have any options. And we almost get stuck in this mentality of people telling us what we need to do next, right? People coming to us and giving us a job that might work for us. But we have the option. It takes a second to sit down with yourself and realize that you've been in this mode of being a follower of what other people are telling you your path should be. But sit down, you listen to this podcast, realize you have choice. You can make your own future. You can make your work life align with exactly what you want it to be and need it to be for your own work and your own life, right? So sit down, start that LinkedIn profile, log in and make yourself a CV on the LinkedIn profile, post your CV on there, get engaged, right? Get engaged on these Indeed job boards and just start looking at all the different options out there. Check out Dr. Sylvie's book. It is a treasure trove of information of all the many vastly different lifestyles you could have, work lives that you could have, all the options available to you. These books are 300, 400 pages long, just summarizing what you can expect in each role, what kind of salary you can expect. Check it out and see if anything jives with you, anything inspires you to make a change. And then maybe explore it on the side. But you don't have to make a change. You can certainly stay where you are, but know that you have options.
Yes, I agree with all of that. That was very well said. And thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. I feel like we touched on all of the high points and take-home messages that I really want physicians to know about. And if they're interested in getting into all of the nitty-gritty options that are out there, pick up my book. And I think that you'll find something helpful in there.
So where can they find your book and you?
So I have both 50 non-clinical careers for physicians and 50 unconventional clinical careers for physicians. Both of those are available on Amazon or on the Association for Physician Leadership bookstore, which is on their website. And you'll also find some information about me on that association's website as well.
And if they wanted to get in touch with you personally, can they do that?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. My profile is pretty easy to find because there aren't very many Sylvies and no other Sylvie Stacys.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Stacy, for coming here today and sharing your wisdom. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it, friends. If you're inspired to rethink your career path after today's chat, remember to check out Sylvie's book for a deep dive into the world of unconventional medical careers. And don't forget to connect with her on LinkedIn for more pearls of wisdom. Remember, the journey to financial freedom doesn't always have to be a solo trek. There's a whole community here cheering you on. Until next time, keep finding your freedom one smart choice at a time. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Share this episode with a friend who might be contemplating a career pivot or just looking to get inspired. And as always, we love hearing your thoughts, so drop us a review or reach out on social media. Stay frugal, y'all. Now, a final word from our sponsor. At Pearson Rabbits, they understand that life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness, injury, or catastrophic event could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. Physician-founded and physician-focused, Pearson Rabbits builds human connections before they create quotes. Visit www.pearsonrabbits.com today and embark on your journey to safeguarding your future.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.